Con Guy Show. We are your home for news, opinions, and interviews from the world of Comic-Cons and fandoms. Your ultimate insiders for all things Con. Welcome back to the Con Guy Show. We are in the middle of our special San Diego Comic-Con campaign, our episodes where we are trying to get everybody up to speed and ready for San Diego Comic-Con, which officially begins on, it's July 25 through 28th with preview night on July 24th. If you don't have your tickets yet, you're not going this year, or you could go down and visit some of the off sites and whatnot. But anyways,
I've told people that for years. I'm like, oh, I don't have a ticket. I'm like, look, you can fill an entire day and a half down there. Yep. Take the train down. You can spend a whole day just doing off sites. I tell people that all the time. I don't have a ticket. Off site. You can fill your whole day with an off site.
It's called Ghosting Comic-Con. It's also a little bit controversial because 150,000 people go to the convention, but about 200 to 250,000 people show up in downtown and fill up those filling up the hotel rooms, which is like, anyways, that's a whole other issue. We have another podcast talking about the issue of hotel rooms and the lack of adequate hotel space. My name is James D. Fry on Instagram here at the Con Guy. Thank you for tuning in. This week, my partner in the Batman booth is...
What's up, everybody? Cheeseman, founding Con Guy member and screenwriter.
That's right. We are screenwriters, podcasters, and a lot of our
panelists. Don't forget panelists.
I was going to say, panelists, we are excited because the guy that has helped us so much to get plugged into San Diego Comic-Con and helped us to present ourselves professionally and kind of get known there is Mr. Topher. Actually, why don't you introduce yourself, my friend?
My name is Topher Davila. I've had the pleasure of being able to do a lot of different stuff in the creative fields. I have I've done a lot of things, and that is reflected in the ways I've gone to the San Diego Comic-Con. But let's see, I've done. I started off as an illustrator. I'm doing a lot more administrative stuff right now because I can actually talk in between business and creative. I've produced animation. I've written some animation. I produced a live action pilot that off of a story I had. Still trying to get that together to get it packaged for that. I've produced some other stuff. I've illustrated books. Every day it's different.
But you also have a company which sets up on the floor of the Comic-Con floor.
Yes, that's where I was going. So yeah, it's currently called Geekdomware, which is we all make all of our own stuff, and it's basically just this sort of like what's become a lot of wearables for geeks. But then we're doing a complete shift right now. In fact, this year, we've been working up something for a decade or so for my wife to take over a lot of the actual on booth stuff. So it's going to be the chainmail, the chainmail dragon, I think is one of the better names right now. And so at that point, it completely becomes her thing, and it will be geeky, girly, feminine, fantasy stuff. And it will be to wear design.
Is it to wear?
Some of it's a chainmail jewelry that's to wear. Stickers, these little cute dragons that she's working on. Dice trays for gaming, the fantasy bent, potion bottles. It's all this. If you are on the feminine end, it's definitely going to be the place to stop on the floor.
What's your booth number?
I should know that. 710, 715, something like that. So basically, it's really easy. You walk in to Hall A, and we're 7th booth on the left. We are like 710, 715, something like that. Hall A. You walk in, we're like number 7 from the entrance. So
you're on the outside of the big? You're right there along the floor. I mean, on
the very edge of the convention center, on the very the most left. The most right edge, Hall A, you walk in, boom, 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 7 booths in, that's us. You don't even have to turn to another, you just go straight in and 7 booths in. We can't get any closer to the front without being like an international manufacturer or something like that. We can't get
without being in the lobby.
Unless we become a much bigger company, I literally can't get a better spot. No better spot can I get.
Topher, that's awesome. And one last thing before we jump in, because today's show we are talking all about the evolution of Comic-Con, how to capture those moments. Comic-Con has gone through many phases, starting back in the 1970s, 80s, 90s to today. It's all different, and Topher's been there for a lot of it. He's also going to help us walk through what it was like when he was there, the different phases, also the different ways people were capturing those moments on film, on video, or whatnot, and the best way to capture it today. So, Topher, thank you so much for being here with us. But we would be remiss if we did not say Sunday of Comic-Con. All three of us are going to be on a panel. Tell us about that panel, please.
The panel is currently named Success in Creativity, Managing Your Resources. We've had a panel there that was the name that was full-time creative work on a part-time schedule that had been there. I think we're at like 15 or 16 years.
I've been having
a panel there, and it just got to be like, okay, we're doing this for a while. Let's come up with a more name that isn't the rolls off the tongue easier. And basically what it is, it's very simple. It's managing your resources for mostly beginning and intermediate people. Come to us and we teach them how you can do this. This is your skill set. You need all of this management and organization wise to finish your project.
Yep.
How do you do that? And I've selected for years people purposely from all edges and different kinds of backgrounds in the creative fields. And so you're getting a lot of input from a lot of different angles, but it's all base information that, because it's really, really base information, not basic, but base information, that it can be applied to any group with a goal, anything from hobbyists, simple hobbyists, all the way up to making a movie and anything in between, because it's just how do you manage your resources when you're making the project.
The reason I loved it so much is because when Luke and I first started going to the conventions as the con guy, and you've taught us never to be without the business card. That's one of the things that Topher and the group there has always taught us, never to be without the business card. But one thing I really loved is you guys really plugged us into a group of creatives. It is mainly geared towards creatives. Anybody can get good advice from us. People in the creative
field.
You're
making a creative project of any scale or size. If you're going to make a creative project, will help you get there.
Yep. And so, oh wow. Anyways, I just got some news, but we'll talk about that later. So,
con related news or other related news?
Other related news. It just kind of struck me here.
Oh boy.
Okay. Anyways, we are going to finish this right here. Go see the panel at 4:00 on. Is it 4:00 Sunday after? Oh, we're not supposed to announce it yet before the panel.
No, we can. It's under the 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks, and you can actually. Cool. The problem is people will do that. They're like, oh, I see online. They're like, oh, I got a panel. I'm like, did you not read the rules? 2 weeks. So yeah, all right, we can actually do that.
So Luke specifically is going to really be helpful during this podcast because Luke is he's a videographer, photographer, design guy, and so he knows about the stuff we're talking about today.
But I'll just be like, what's that? What's that?
All right. So, Topher,
yes,
we're going to start right at the beginning, the evolution of San Diego Comic-Con. It started kind of in 1969, but we look at 1970, the 70s as the first decade of Comic-Con. Tell us about pilgrimages. Let's talk about pilgrimages, the communal aspect. Tell us what you mean by people going on a pilgrimage and how San Diego Comic-Con falls into that, and especially in the beginning years.
Well, San Diego Comic-Con then, but especially now, is kind of a secular pop culture geek pilgrimage, because what it really does is the communal aspect of who you're contacting with, and who you're going with, and who you're meeting, and how you're growing each in between times, and the communal aspect is really raises it above a vacation. Is really the key bit there, is that you can go on a vacation and that's great and it's wonderful, but San Diego Comic-Con is kind of this geek pilgrimage because of the communal aspect of just going and meeting the people and who you're going with and what you're doing there and who you're bumping into, and it's that communal angle. I will try not to repeat myself. Sorry.
No. That's pretty cool. Like
that's really the key element is that it's the communal angle that really is what makes it the pilgrimage, as opposed to
pilgrimage. Like if we look at today, like through millennia, there's always been pilgrimages. There's been things that people gather to go to, and it's rite of passage or whatnot. But whether it's religious pilgrimage, which still happens in many major religions, or not, I agree. It's kind of cool, and we have our own secular pilgrimage. We go to San Diego every year, as long as it stays in San Diego. And anyways, the thing that got my attention, and when we're done with the podcast, Topher, we'll talk about it. But right now, let's talk about your experience. Your experience. Did you start going? You didn't start going in the 70s. You're way too young for that.
No. I was late. I think the first one was I started going. I was 13, which is mid 80s, I guess, mid 80s, okay. Something like that, mid 80s. I can do the backwards math, but Brian and I calculated we've been going about 36, 37 years at this point.
And
so my first year, I was 13 when I went.
But you mentioned Brian. Who's Brian?
Okay, so this is going to be kind of an important sort of like foundational bit. You asked me to provide photos, and I have a bunch of photos. There's going to be this other guy in the photos going as far back as I've got. The photos are there. That's my buddy Brian. Shout out to Brian Apodaca. He's the one that got me into comics when I met him in third grade. So we met in third grade. We got into comics, blossomed from there. He's basically my Jay, as if I was Silent Bob. We've just been, and we were just hanging out like 2 weekends ago. We got married and life happens, but we're still texting and all of that.
Wait. You got married, not to each other.
No, not to each other. We got married to two different women. So yeah, so we got married to two, but we both gotten married and therefore, the sense I was gonna say was, since we've drifted apart because we got married to different people, we've kind of drifted apart, as you can do, meaning that you are not with them every other Tuesday or every other day, but we still see each other a lot. The bottom line is that his dad took me down there when we were 13. And then my parents started taking me, but his dad was the one that was taking me to the conventions at 13, 14, took me down to San Diego Comic-Con at 13. And then we've been going to San Diego Comic-Con, if not together, then later on in life, meeting up there, both going in parallel and then meeting up there as like I said, he and I have been going to Comic-Con for like 13, since I was 13. And so you see this other guy in the photos, that's right.
Sorry, for those of you watching the podcast, we were throwing up the cover of the souvenir book from 1985 back in the years. So
I don't think we were there. That's a little bit early for us, but I do remember. But that would be right around that time frame is when I first went. And so the other guy in the photo that you're going to see, that's Brian.
Okay.
And we've been going together. That's the other guy in the photo.
Tell me, let's go ahead and start going through some of these photos and how you captured photos from your early days.
Yeah.
And the type of stuff that we will probably, because there is a book out that we'll talk about shortly that really captures some of those photos from the early days as well.
Oh, yeah. Because there's people that were there. I'm lucky enough to have started going when I was younger at that time frame, but you had people like Jackie Estrada that was there for the first San Diego Comic-Con, Mike Towery, which is one of the founding members of it. The late
Jackie Estrada right here.
Yeah, that's Jackie. She is so awesome.
Here's this is their book cover from the 90s.
Yeah. She will tell you that is not that's not photographic historical photo history and photos. I have told her I completely disagree with her. These books are a history, a photo history of what's going on. She's like, no, they're other things. I'm like, no. These are, because she lived it and I didn't. So
just real quick, for those who don't know who Jackie Estrada is, shame on them. Tell us who Jackie Estrada is.
Jackie Estrada went to the first San Diego Comic-Con when it was there. She's been to all of them ever since. She currently works for San Diego Comic-Con and manages the Eisners, or is one of the main people that does the Eisners.
Yeah.
That does the Eisners. She's one of the main, like, if you like the Eisners that happen and it goes well, say thank you to Jackie. If you've also ever been an Artist Alley, you should say thank you to her, because I don't know the exact story on that, but I do know basically she created Artist Alley with her.
Yeah.
It is her. I don't know. There's probably maybe one other person who's in the room or something like that. But Artist Alley exists primarily or heavily because of Jackie. Say thank you to you. Thank you to Jackie if you've ever been or make your money from Artist Alley. If you go to the Eisners, that's also Jackie. She is just so tied in, and she was just there, which is what the books are for, because it's just her. Just her photos that she took.
I mean, but like, what did she do in the early
amazing.
days? She was there at the beginning, right?
Yes. First San Diego Comic-Con, basement of the U.S. Grant. She attended for the first one. She was not working for them, but she attended.
Yep, and this is one of her photos from the olden days.
It
looks so 70s.
Yeah. Well, it's maybe 80s, maybe.
No, is it? Wait, let's see. Because this is the same folks. I think this is
the glasses on the guy.
Oh, yeah.
Those aren't 70s glasses. Those are what you're stuck with in the 80s.
All right. So, Topher, let's start with you. Let's start with your experience with San Diego Comic-Con. Let's talk about the decades that you've been there and the changes you have seen. And Cheeseman, feel free to jump in as we start going through these pictures. And Topher, you can let's just be casual. Tell me what kind of pictures you want me to pull up right now.
You can start off. If you just want to start off with early ones, we've got. We can just start off with the category ones. We can do just start off with the group photos to just kind of get a sequence of seeing what's going. Like the group OD group photos.
Give me just one
group photos. Basically, I've been lucky enough to have gone through two major evolutions. And people like Jackie and Towery and the late Bat and Lash have seen probably 2 or 3 more than me. But I went when it was still, like, the first year that I went, the masquerade was still at another location that you had to go to. It wasn't in the building, in an older theater building.
Mm-hmm. And what's the masquerade, just so the viewers know?
It's basically a costume competition where everyone kind of walks on stage and you get to see their costume, and they put a lot of work into it, and you get to see it, and then they judge and get awards for that. That was, I think, at the concourse, but the first year I was there, they didn't even have the costume competition on site at the convention center. It was a small convention. It was a relatively small convention. You could buy tickets to go. You could walk up to it and do that. It was a small enough convention that it didn't fill the whole convention center. There were other events going on in the convention center during San Diego Comic-Con. And that was when I first started going. And then it got big enough to fill up the space, but it was still this sort of like more not laid back, but laid back by compared to now.
Yeah.
You could walk up to an employee. And this, by the way, is one of the things of why I really like our panel, why we're allowed to do it. When I first started going, you could walk up to somebody behind a desk at an artist or an editor, and you could go, I want to get in. Can you give me some tips? Can you do this? And they would give you the 5 minutes, 10 minutes of time to just say, okay, kid, here's some bits. You could do that when I was going. That's how I learned a lot of my stuff. At this point, every 2 minutes is money down there. They will not spend 2 seconds with anybody if it's not profit driven for a lot of the people there. Whereas I was able to get my information from, hey, can you tell me, or what do I need to do? Sure, yeah. Let me do da. And then they talk to you for 5 minutes.
All right.
And our panel does that, which is why I like our panel, because that part of the second evolution that I've seen of San Diego Comic-Con is that got lost. So I'm trying to hold on to that with our panel.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to discourage people to not go talk to the people, because sometimes you can, but the key to getting them to talk is buy something. Please buy something. If you're going to take valuable time at the booth, buy something, maybe get an autograph or a picture, pay the few dollars.
But it was standard to go up and go, you know what? Can you look at my artwork? I want to get into editing. I want to be a writer. Can you what do I need to do to get to this? And they give you 5 minutes and give you as an 18-year-old, 15-year-old, 20-year-old, they give you 5 minutes to bequeath wisdom to you. That I mean, ask if you want to, but that's not really. I mean, that's not really there anymore.
All right, so Topher, just we have one. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different folders that I got from you. None of them say group photos.
Within there, is there a subfolder within that?
Let me look. I'm looking within there.
No, double click.
There's no subfolders within here that says group photos. If there are, go ahead and send them to me if you have a chance right now, and I can go ahead and get those up. But while we wait for those to show up, how about I would love.
What you got?
Huh?
It's all good, I'm sure.
Okay, let's just start back here. I want to start with the Polaroids because Polaroids were. I don't think they're making Polaroid cameras anymore, are they? Or are they?
Our friend Brad does a lot of Polaroid type stuff, but a lot of times you can just print them on the spot, and you can also go digital with it. So the technology.
Oh wait! Look what Topher's got. Look what Topher's got.
Yeah. So there's your Polaroids that you have. This is my Polaroid I have, and I don't have the printer because I'm still moving. But then you can also get these that also will go in a live printer. You can print out these on the spot that Luke was talking about.
So look, Brad has.
I like the Kodak one, but here's a Polaroid.
Yes.
Is that a newer one?
What?
Is that a new Polaroid or an older one?
No, it's a newer one. In fact, it will actually connect to your phone, so you can set settings on it for exposure and light and shutter speed and stuff like that.
Well, let's talk about though, like in the 70s. What kind of no, you weren't there in the 70s. Sorry,
I wasn't there in the 70s.
Well, what is this? We're looking at a couple of Polaroids here. What is this that we're looking at?
Well, that was actually that was actually the Animaniacs, because part of the explosion. Part of the other evolution that's gone on is the geek boomtown that's happened in, I don't know, the last maybe 15 years plus, something like that. This has become all of downtown just becomes this giant geek boomtown for 4 days.
Yeah.
And so everyone gets in on the people rummaging around, and that was the Animaniacs. People got together and had a concert. And so they had a signing. I paid for the signing. So I went up and I basically went up to them. And this is why Polaroids are still useful. So you went up, hi, smile, click,
and there you go. It
popped out, and then you just hand them the Polaroid and go, sign this, please.
So this is the Animaniacs creators or voice cast?
Yeah, voice cast, the creators, directors. I don't remember exactly who it was, but it was primarily the voices.
So that was probably taken during the 90s, then, right? Or 2000s, 90s?
Oh, that was only like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you what. I'm going to go ahead through, and we'll start with your let me see. Let's start with which camera I'm trying to figure out which one we should start with. Let me just start from the top, and you can just kind of describe it. I would love to know 80s, 90s, 2000s. How has the convention changed? I want to know, in your opinion, and how have you captured moments? How has your ability to capture moments changed from like the 90s that you started in the 80s real early?
Yeah.
So walk us through 80s, 90s, 2000s. What has changed, and especially with photography?
Well, what a lot of change is that the convention just got excuse me, I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. We'll look at Luke when that happens.
Oh, forgive me.
Uh-oh.
No worries. No worries.
The 80s, like I said, it was still small enough to have other things going on, and it was still primarily a comic book convention. But can I just pause for 1 second? When everyone sits here and complains about media and all of that being at the convention center, it was always meant to be a convention plus media convention from the start. As I understand it, the story, when they were figuring out what to do at the beginning, the people that were founding it went over to Jack Kirby and said, because he was in San Diego, and they were like, do we do comic books? Do we do media? Because the conventions were specialized there, and it was a Star Trek convention, it was a Space 1999, it was a this, very, very, very specialized. And like, do we do a comic book? And do we bring other stuff? And Jack Kirby was like, this is Jack Kirby that said this at the start. He goes, bring in other media, bring in other movies, bring in everything else, bring them in so that they'll see comic books and they'll get into comic books by being here. bring in the media, have them come here and see what we've got. And I know there's a paraphrase in a story, and the story is probably better, but so everyone's going like right now, it's like, oh my God, there's so much more media there. You lost the comic books. It was never that way to begin with. Jack
Can you
Kirby
clarify what do you mean by media? What do you talk about? Media means filmed entertainment.
Anything outside of comic books. A lot of it is like, it's comic books, and it's just comic books, and they're just comic books, not movies of comic books, not movies, not science fiction, not the cosplays of a thing now, the costuming and all that, just movie promotions, movies, TV shows, anything outside of, you pick up the comic book and you're reading the comic book. Anything outside of that media, it was always supposed to be there from the first one.
Cool.
And so people are going, oh no, you lost the comic books. It's like, it was never supposed to be a comic book only convention. Yeah. From the very start, it was never that way.
Cool. Listen,
go ahead.
No. So that was the early days. Tell us about 90s. How was 90s?
And we'll get back to that question, right? Because I'd love to know, since you guys went, pre and post Twilight and all the kind of the shift. Yeah. We can go back to that later, right, Jim?
Okay. So
no. Look, go ahead and ask it right now. So
as you and Jim, you both have gone, pre kind of Twilight, and when the whole media thing went crazy and the studios are like, whoa, we can really make this be where we're premiering.
2009.
Yeah. So just tell me a little bit about, what you saw as a shift, or was it gradual, Topher, or did it just boom, really hit with like the Twilight type stuff?
Topher, you'll know better, because I had only been twice. And then all of a sudden 2009 happened, and it felt like a seismic shift in lines at Comic-Con.
Jim, you talked about how you could just go up and buy tickets.
My first 2 years, I never bought a 4-day ticket. I went down, got a ticket, and then I was like, if I wanted to stay another day, I would buy a ticket. Me and Greg actually parked outside a hotel, got on an app and got a hotel room, and just said, okay, let's stay another day. It was and that was in 2007 or 8. All right, go ahead, Joe.
You were, in the 90s, you would go down the day of and buy the ticket and go in. Now, I would buy early because I didn't want the line, because what would happen is the line would get really long and it would go all around the convention center. So Brian and my brother were never bought ahead of time, so they would just get in the line, would stay in line for like 2 or 3 hours to get their ticket, and then they got their ticket and they had their on Thursday, and then they had their 4-day ticket. What I would do is on Sunday, there had this little booth. It was it kind of looked like the booth that Lucy had in Peanuts. Just this little kind of booth that was put up in front of a column.
She was a head shrinker.
It was put up in front of a column on Sunday, where you could buy your 4-day pass for next year's convention on Sunday. So you could go down there and just go in. It was a small thing. The size of it was a completely different, thing. Like for example, the amount. I'll give you a story that kind of shows you just the completely. This is more of a 90s thing. I'll get into the 80s in a second, but this is Comic-Con in the 90s, right? So Mystery Men comes out, right? It's close enough that they have the Herkimer battle thing down there, right? And so they put the Herkimer in the corner, right? The very, very edge of the convention center, and they put little stanchions around it, and that's it. Nothing else.
Wait, you're gonna have to. Not everybody knows what you're talking about. They put stanchions around what?
I'm sorry. Thank you for reeling me in. They put the little stanchions and the ropes around the tank thing. They put the tank thing. If you see Mystery Men, the tank thing,
with a giant, it's like a tank.
It's a giant tank thing. It's called a Herkimer. They parked the tank thing in the corner for Mystery Men, put the stanchions, the ropes around it, right? And that was it. Nothing else. So Brian and I are sitting there, and we're kind of looking at it, and we're going, and we're looking to the left, and we're looking to the right. There's no one around. There's no security. They don't even have security there. It's just sitting there, right? It's just sitting there. And we're to the left, right? There's no one. Like, there's no one in our view. I'm like, oh, let's go inside. So we cross the stand. So we cross the ropes, go in and climb inside of it, right? Inside of this giant prop, the tank prop, and go sit inside the little cockpit area for like 20 minutes. And think that's cool, and then climb back out when we're bored. No one's around. No one's been around. And then we just kind of exit past the ropes. Think about a similar prop now of what would be down there, what would be wrapped around it, what security would be there.
Oh, you would have your butt handed to you. Yeah.
That was sort of the feel and the size and just like the amount of people that weren't there in the late 80s and 90s at Comic-Con. Yep. We were able to do that. The world is also the world has changed, but also the kind of convention was also very different too. Just kind of what you could do and how many people and all of that. When we were 16, Brian's dad drove us down, and he rented the Marriott for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Which one? The Marriott Marquis?
Marriott Marquis and Marie, which is directly adjacent to the convention center.
Connected onto the side of it, actually. Almost.
Yeah. I mean, if there's a little area that if you could leap, you could get over to the next crossway. It's that close. So we rented Wednesday through Sunday. And he goes, okay. I paid for the hotel room, and I put in my share of the hotel room. He goes, he's by the front entrance. He goes like, be here Sunday at 7 p.m. and leaves back up to Orange County. Just leaves us there at 16 for the convention. But you could at that point down there wasn't enough craziness to have a problem. There wasn't enough insanity to run into people. There wasn't enough. You could do that. Like that was
the Gaslamp district still the giant campus like it is today back then, or
no? It was that entire.
They had their full menu of food. What are you talking about?
They had the
I know. Yeah, exactly.
It was tourism, but it wasn't this giant geek boomtown. So it was the tourism and the food and all that. But you could do stuff like that. It was just a smaller show. It was a more fun show. Anyone that went to the special edition, anyone that went to special edition, that was the vibe and the feel of Comic-Con of 1990s, early 90s, 1995.
All right, late 80s, pull up a 1990 Comic-Con cover right there.
Yeah. The late 80s was just a really small show. There was other things going on in San Diego and in the convention center. I bought a 1 year, late 80s, I was wandering around and they had an MC Escher art exhibit up in another part of the same San Diego Convention Center. And I went over there and I bought a little poster and I still got it. But I mean, like, there was an entire other art exhibit going on that had nothing to do with San Diego. It didn't fill up the convention center. You could go up and talk with people. You could actually get that, feedback. You could, you could go in when you wanted to. Another thing about it is they really wanted to sell you too. Now it's like buy or don't buy, kid, move along. They really want to sell to you. They were like, hey, what can I do? How can I talk with you? And I don't mean a hard sell, but they're like, you're here. So you're definitely might want my thing. What can I do? I want you to have this.
So Topher, I'm going to ask you a question, and then you and Luke are going to talk cameras. We're going to walk through the cameras. But my last question before we do that, you told us that you've seen two major transformations of San Diego Comic-Con. Can you tell us what those are?
The first one was going from a smaller convention that we could just have two 16-year-olds safely, freely, unnoticeably wander around with at
and this is not when you were there, but I'm showing a picture.
That's before me.
Yeah, I'm showing you way before you.
You can safely wander around in, and just a lot of elbow room. I guess you didn't get the photos I sent. That especially at the floor where
I've got
how much floor space there was. And how small the booths were and how much floor space there was. The first transformation was that to a decent sized convention that now filled up the convention center. That
And
was
they're
the
at
first
capacity.
transition.
They're
Yeah,
at capacity.
you didn't hit capacity because when you filled it, you could still buy badges.
Yeah.
You could
And
still
with
go
that,
down there.
real quick, what was sold kind of on the floor back then? Because now you get like the hats, you got the tank top. Everybody's trying to find a way to market to Comic-Con and to the fandom stuff. What kind of things were you buying or seeing while you're on the floor?
It was mostly comic book related in one way or another.
Yes.
So one of the changes, the second change to get to to get to James' thing and to tie in Luke, the second change was I'm going down there and I'm like, why is the office have a booth down here? What is the
Office.
So
Yeah,
what
I
you
heard about
were
that.
getting sold, they were media that was selling to you, but it was comic book, adventure, science fiction, all of those sort of like Target geek stuff was outside the comic book. It was media, it was movies, but that's what was primarily there that they were trying to talk to us and try and share with us and share with us. So it was a lot more it was a lot less big companies, a lot more publishers, a lot more people, smaller companies selling their own stuff, geek related, comic related, a lot more comic book related, less fantasy, and just a lot more books, a lot more books.
What about
And
cosplay?
artwork
That
was
come
a
in?
huge thing. One of my big artwork was a huge thing that you could get there. Really nice artwork. One of my most amazing memories of the Comic-Con was one of my favorite comic strips is Little Nemo, by Winsor McCay, right? And they were
Finding Nemo, but Little Nemo. Yeah.
Little Nemo. Yes, Little Nemo, Winsor McCay. Very culturally different from now, just as a heads up if you're ever going to look at it.
Yeah.
even for one. But the art is mind-blowing. So they had an original there. And they had original they put for sale. I got to be in it was like 4.5 feet tall by like 3 feet. That one piece of Sunday was I got to stand in front of this giant piece of artwork there. So what do they have there? A lot more of that artwork, a lot of more of that tied in artwork, comic book artwork that was tied in, less fantasy, more stuff that had to do with the core sort of geek angle. The second big change was what I told you about.
Yeah.
Why does the Office have a booth here?
Yeah.
That's kind of like the encapsulation right there.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Why does Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I love that show, why does Abbott Elementary have a festival this year at Comic-Con?
That was.
By the way, I'm not against these things. I think it's great, but why?
Yeah, that was my. So the first one went from a small show to a show that filled it up. The second evolution was to go into basically Cannes. It's been compared to Cannes, like West Coast Cannes. This is where people go for whatever is on film that they want to get it to the people that will get them hooked or get them in or get them to write the article. And I think it's a very apt explanation. Is it turned into Cannes Film Festival, but San Diego. So it's still Comic-Con. It's in all your comic stuff is there, yes, but it turned into Cannes. That was the second evolution that I saw.
When did that happen?
That happened probably around 2000s, I guess.
So let me ask you this, and then we got about 10 minutes, I guess, left. But so I do want to go through your photos here and talk about. I want to talk about the cameras, and I know Luke wants to talk about it, but I do have to ask you. 2000 from 2000 to 2024 this year. What are the changes you've seen, and where do you think we're going?
I think we've seen. I think the cataclysmic caterpillar to butterfly changes that I was able to see, people older than me were able to see. I don't think we're going to see those are going to be as stark anymore. But there is one important thing that was earlier is this evolution does take time. 1 year to another, you don't notice it. Looking back a decade later, you're like, oh, this is a completely different thing. Comic-Con is not the sort of thing where you go to Disneyland and you're like, I'm taking a photo. I took a photo when I was 8, and I'm going back to take a photo of me at 30, and it's the same castle in the same Disneyland.
Right.
It changes so significantly, but I don't think we're going to have not cataclysmic, just major, huge, absolute shifts like I've seen. I think we've kind of plateaued off where it's going to stay as a major media output, and a major the Cannes film, like I can going out back.
I agree mostly, but I do think we're going to see some changes. I do think it's going to. San Diego Comic-Con has emerged and positioned itself as the industry event. Yeah. It's because of its proximity to the Los Angeles.
Yep.
And plus the comic book publishers. I do think, though, that 2019 may have been a high watermark as far as extreme interests from the industry and from comic books and from everybody. And like you said, the shows which are just kind of tangentially connected to Comic-Con. Like, I love It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which came for like so many years and hasn't been in many years. It might be back this year. We don't know yet. It hasn't been. But I think that movies are going to become, it appears as if movies are starting to move away from San Diego Comic-Con, but it's because of the change in the industry. Streaming is so much more a bigger part of the industry now. Like this year at San Diego Comic-Con, we're seeing a bunch of streaming shows that are in there. Comic books, like I remember Mile High Comics a couple of years ago left Comic-Con because it didn't make sense for him to show up anymore. I
actually had a conversation with someone at Comic-Con that I won't mention who.
Yeah.
But they were saying the reason why it was the Comic-Con didn't have an ad on WonderCon was that there wasn't they were being kind of like, roundabout, but basically the feeling I got was that no one stepped up to pay the ad space because they're finding ways to get the word out on their own
social media,
so they don't need Comic-Con in the same way. And I agree with you that I think those are going to be there, but I think those aren't going to be pushed in the same major way that they were before.
I always try to paint people this way. Twilight in 2009 exploded San Diego Comic-Con. However, when Marvel started making its own movies in 2010 with Iron Man, the trajectory of Comic-Con becoming a giant cultural force followed Marvel. It did. It kind of followed it. Marvel, I love Marvel, but it trailed off a little bit here in the past couple of years. San Diego Comic-Con doesn't have as many movies. As much as I say this, though, tickets still sell out within 40 minutes. It's not changing. But that being said, let's move into the pictures.
There's one thing before we move on we haven't really talked about, which I think is, I feel like cosplay might have really exploded at some point. And then the people that come in, because you're getting like models and you're getting other people that, like a wide range of people. You got the nerds and the jocks together, even just over the cosplay, because people like to dress up and they get professionally shot. And this also ties into the photography stuff as well. Like I feel like, I bet the cosplay changed a lot once, people knew there was going to be a lot of eyes there. A lot of people are like, oh, I'd love to go there and just dress up and then get myself out there and build these costumes.
Yes, because the thing I was actually going to say with my next thought was going to be, I think the costuming is going to be becoming bigger and bigger over the next 10 years. I think it is, because it's a place to go and have fun, where you've got the high end people doing their thing, but then you've also got, how many people have you seen that bought a Spider-Man suit and just were walking around? I mean, with the costumes that you can buy either at Disneyland or here or there.
But it's not about costumes. It's about
go over in your Harry Potter clothes that you bought at Universal Studios.
No. I know that's what people are doing, but the cosplay is different. It's not just costuming. Like, Luke, that's a great question, because from what I've been reading, the past 10 years, there's been this friction between cosplay is taking over the attention of Comic-Con.
Interesting.
So much, and a lot of people are not happy with it. I think it's great. It gives us so much attention. But if you Google San Diego Comic-Con, the first 10 pages, you're going to see cosplay. It's one of those things. But I think it's a great thing for Comic-Con.
Well,
People buy these passes just to go inside the
too.
air conditioning and pretty much probably hang in, the main long lobby areas.
But I think that half those cosplayers that show up in front of San Diego Comic-Con, they don't have tickets to go. They don't have badges. Yeah.
But it's everyone that starts having that conversation, I always my response is this is like San Diego Comic-Con, especially the major conventions, but that one, it's this weird perspective where they're looking at like, oh, it's taking over. It's taking over. The way I see it is that San Diego Comic-Con is like a 8-ring circus. It is like 6 conventions in one. This particular person is going for the collectible convention. This person is going to buy their comics. This person is going for the to do the costuming. This person is going because they really like the particular movie or a series. It's multiple. So people are going, well, they say it's taking over the convention as if it's one convention.
I know.
I don't see it that way. I see it as like 6 conventions under one roof.
I agree. It's the only convention. Like, you've got fantasy, sci-fi, pop culture, cosplay. You've got gaming. It's all there. I love it. And there's also the anime, the 24-hour anime film festival that goes on inside the Marriott for the entire time. I agree with you. All right. I don't mean to rush us, but
yes.
Topher. All right. I'm going to start pulling out some photos, Topher. You're going to start walking us through it. Okay, my friend?
Okay.
Here we go. What are we looking at, and what do you want to talk about?
This is one I took.
Wait, one more thing.
Brian, by the way,
you can jump in, please.
This is Brian, by the way, that I've been talking about. He wanted to, like a month ago, he wanted to hit all the comic book stores, the major comic book stores in LA. So I wanted to have it sounded like a fun photographic exercise. So what we've got here is kind of the real difference between I don't know what they're called, proper cameras, something, kind of like this, something more like this, what
are we looking at? Where'd you take this picture up from?
I forgot what comic book store this was. So
you were showing us that. What were you holding up in your hand?
Oh, that was a kid that I'm saying it's the difference. I gave you those as an example as the difference between a proper camera and an iPhone, right?
Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, so when you say a proper camera, what are you talking about? And Cheeseman, if you can jump in, because I'm in over my head here.
This is a Canon R6 with interchangeable lenses. Interchangeable lenses. So the lenses will do different things. It only takes a photo. That's all that it does. It doesn't do anything else. And you will buy this, and there's a very good chance if you buy this camera, you will be in a relationship with this camera longer than a girlfriend that you will have.
That's not saying a lot.
You buy these, and when you get to a certain level and you buy these, Luke will back me up this. I'm probably going to be using this thing for the next like 8 years, 6 years.
Does that sound right, Luke?
So you said that doesn't do video as well. That's just
it does do video. It does do video.
Okay.
But he was mentioning photos, so I was going with that.
Well, I think more the one.
So this one here, click through the photos. There should be another one that I sent you.
No,
one, right.
And then you got this one.
Boom, that's the iPhone photo. What I did is at the exact same location and spot in almost same moment, I took 2 photos with my camera and then one with the iPhone. So when you're taking photos and you're capturing your memories, it's when people go, well, you want to take better photos or different photos with a proper camera as opposed to an iPhone, you can see the difference here. That's taken with my R6, and you can tell it's just a completely different look.
You could probably cover a building with that one because the resolution's so high.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So for people who are just listening, we're looking at a picture of Brian, 2 pictures. The first one is it's just a very detailed, beautiful, like cinematic picture. And the second one's a great shot. But it's very bright.
Yeah. And I've done nothing to these. These are straight out of the phone and straight out of the camera. I didn't even edit the other one. So this will show you the difference between using your iPhone and using a camera. And you don't need to have a really nice one, by the way. I love this guy that I got. They have a lot of entry-level ones now. This one is my M5. I love this guy.
Describe it's a Canon M5.
It's a Canon M5, a EOS M5, and you can't, if you can see it here, it's so small. It just, I'm holding it with 2 fingers as opposed to anything else. And it's so small, I can put it in my coat pocket and take it with me. So you don't need to jump into the deep end when you're buying a camera. Canon came out with the R50s and R100s for the entry level people that gets them into a proper size, proper camera that you can do more of a range. You can do more of a range of photos that you're going to take. So you can start off. I like this one because it's small, but and it's got the same interchangeable lens system, and all that, where you can do that. So you don't have to start off big. You can start off a little bit.
Can I ask a question though? And I'm gonna shoot this over to Luke Cheeseman. Cheeseman, you said when we were looking at this picture, as opposed to this picture, you said you could project it onto the side of a building. Why did you mean?
I'm just saying, like the resolution, the pixel stuff. I mean, phones are getting better where you're getting, more megapixels and all that. Like pixels have to do with how big you can blow it up without it becoming pixelated or have that kind of like blurry look to it. But the camera, you'll get a much higher resolution that will also stand the test of time. I mean, the cameras they have now, you could literally have 100 years from now.
Yeah, like look at the size of the this has got shutter covering it, but that inside, that's the size of the camera sensor, right? As opposed to here, that's the size of these sensors. That's why you can cover a building with it. Look how much larger this sensor is on the inside of my Canon. It's like probably what 5, 6, 7 times the volume of the space as opposed to what you have on the back of your phone.
Yeah. So
that's why you can do it.
They are heavier to carry around.
There's more information coming in.
What'd you say, Lurk?
They are heavier to carry around, but long term they'll be a much better. If you're looking to get high quality photos that that will look really good, but you can get a lot from your phone. Like with cameras, one of the things that will stand the test of time. More cameras do change, they do evolve, they do get higher resolution. The 4K and 8K and all that stuff keeps evolving. But what's good about these cameras, a lot of times, if you get and invest in good lenses, they also create adapters. So as time goes, you can still change out cameras if you want, but also, get adapters that you can adapt old lenses, even if the brands don't match, and all that.
To your point, the Canon, the starting ones, the ones I mentioned, the M50 and the M100, their mount, which is the this space here, is their larger RRF mount. I'm going to get technical here, but
no, this is awesome. This is super interesting.
The point is that it's actually the larger professional size mount for the entry level cameras for the R50 and the R100. So you can buy a lens for your starter camera and don't have to rebuy the lens when you get a better camera in 5 years. You can use the same camera because it's got the same size mount. If you want to get into photography.
All right. Topher, I'm going to, because of time, I'm going to start going through these photos. I think this photo was to demonstrate, we have a photo that we're looking at outside Topher's office, I think, right?
There are things that are irreparable for a proper size camera with interchangeable lenses. This is, for example, this is a regular pulled out distance photo that I took with my regular lens. And then the next one is how close I can get in with a proper telephoto lens.
What are we looking at? That's like a speedboat motor on the back of a boat.
It's just the back of an engine, but if you pull back to the other one, look how small that is.
So like this is from the same position, way for like it's kind of like binoculars on the But what's cool? Okay, here is a picture, Topher, that you took. You gave us of the gas lamp district during Comic-Con. And I think this is telephoto demonstration. So we go a little bit closer, super close. You can see the people down there. And then look at this. You can just read. Tell us about this.
Well, this is basically another example of proper telephoto where look how close you can get here. And because it's the lenses that pull you in. And Luke, you'll know more about that than me. But look how close you can get. And I'm across the street. I mean, how you guys have been in our panel to there. How far would you guess that is?
Where are you taking this picture from? Are you?
I'm taking this photo from right outside of where our panel is. Everyone tends to walk away. When everyone walks away after our panel, I'm standing at the window taking a photo. This is
through the window.
Yeah.
Oh, crap. That's an amazing job from that
How far
telephoto.
is that? Like, what would your guess be on that?
You're always being watched, people. Just remember.
Topher, this is so creepy a little bit because you can like zoom right in. You could probably read the back of my credit card if I had it out here.
So yeah, like how far would that be? Would you guys guess? What
that's like way over there. That's
3,000 feet, maybe something like that.
Yeah,
More?
at least.
1,000
Not
feet more?
1,000, maybe a fifth of a mile. I think it's like 750 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, like 750. Yeah, okay. That's why I was asking you guys because I bet at that distance. So,
oh my gosh,
that's just some of the things that you can do with when you have a proper camera that can swap lenses. But and if I have just 30 seconds there, if you want to use your phone, it's a really big deal to capture the best moments that you can the best way. And if you want to stick with your phone, you can. Just understand a couple of basic concepts if you're going to do this. Understand how the phones work. For one, the two things out of the gate, just is that I'll get over the first one really quickly that I see all the time. Your phones are set on. I know iPhones, so I don't know Androids. I apologize.
Okay,
but,
I've got the phone with just two things. Luke,
but it's live. People hand me their phone.
Oh, Luke's got the super mega phone right there.
Yeah. Okay. So people hand me their phone, and their phone is set to live. Live is not a photo. Live is a video clip. So it's not gonna be a really in 20 because these images. You need to think about it in the way that these are going to be a special image you're going to be looking at in 20 years. No exaggeration. In 2 decades, this is going to be a photo you're going to have on a wall or here or there or showing. And a live photo is a video. It's a very, very low resolution photo. By simply taking a photo as opposed to making sure you're live, just turn your live off, take the photo. You've already improved the lasting ability of your photo. The other one is a fundamental misunderstanding that I don't understand why the companies haven't done this. But and this is a various particular megapixels. The new iPhone 15 is like 45 megapixels. If you get the top one, they're usually around 20 or 50. They're usually like 20 or this or that, right? So, but
Luke, do you know?
I don't know the numbers.
But they're generally around 20. You can get up to 20 at this point and be okay, right? The new iPhones are like 45 or something like that, right? The front facing one right here.
Yep.
That's a 15 megapixel camera.
Oh yeah, tell us this. You were talking about this, yeah.
15 megapixel camera on even the flagship phones. The biggest I want the most expensive one that I can buy in the store on either Android or iPhone. It's gonna be a 15 megapixel camera. This is gonna be decent if you're not a flagship, but if you have a flagship, you're dealing with a 45 megapixel camera here. So the reason why that's important is the second one is that, and this information is old, is like 7 or 8 years old, but
stop right there. You're talking about taking pictures this way as opposed to this way. Selfies as opposed
Selfie, 15 megapixel on a second-rate camera on the phone. The camera on the front is going to be your best camera. Is going to be your best camera your phone has got. Your one that's on the front facing. On the front facing is 15 megapixel, and like the one they were using recycled from 5 years ago. So, but this is why it's important. And I read the study like 6-7 years ago, something like that. At that point, over half, like 55% of all photos taken on smartphones were selfies.
Yeah.
That means when you meet your actor that you love, your once in a lifetime, you get to Stephen Moffat. Like when I met Stephen Moffat, you get Stephen Moffat, and you have your one photo. This is it. You're gonna meet Stephen Moffat once, and you're gonna have to make it last for the last 20 years. Guy. If you go to take a selfie with them, you are taking a photo with the worst photo. You're taking a photo with the worst camera on your phone. Take it to make it last. Still using phones. Don't do the selfie. That's going to be a really low grade photo. have someone else take the photo for you. Have your friend do it. I'm older, but I'm old Gen X. So I just walk by. Hey, can you like take a photo? Can you like 1 second? Can you take a photo? Have someone take the photo. I ask all the time. You know what they say? Sure. If you take a photo of us too. Sure. Okay, no problem. But somehow take the photo with the front, not the selfie.
All right,
If it's the main guy that you've met and love.
You sent us this picture. It's a picture of a character on a stage. What is this?
That's another example of how telephoto can go. That's the masquerade. We were talking the masquerade earlier. That's
so where were you sitting?
That's the WonderCon masquerade, but that's the masquerade.
Okay, so, and then what is this? This is a beautiful photo you took here.
That's where I was sitting to take the other photo.
So it's a picture in the masquerade, which is ballroom 20, and
you're sitting down.
Topher was probably. It looks like you're 3/4 of the way back.
You're very, very far back for people that are listening to an audio. You're very, very far back. That's where I'm sitting. The other photo is how close I could get with my camera from as far back as I was.
So let me just describe what we're looking at. He was probably 3/4 of the way back in ballroom 20, which seats I think it's like 4,000 people.
Yeah, something crazy.
So he's probably back around 3,000 people.
Well, no, this is WonderCon, but yes, it's the same thing.
Oh, okay. So if it's WonderCon, I don't know what that is. Then it looks like he's on stage almost taking a picture of this character, this cosplay character. That's
I got it so close I could get the guy.
And real quick, because we do have to kind of wrap up here. One thing I do want to show is give an example, because Topher, you said you gave us example of time-lapse photography or time-lapse. I'm just going to show this right now. Let's pull it up. If people are watching, this is an example. Topher, tell us what we're seeing.
This is, I think, 2017-18 of how long the line was for Hall H.
Oh my God! And you walk through the whole thing in super time lapse. I love this. I love
the time lapses. But time lapses are a thing I like to do. I never get rid of my old phones. Like when I buy a new phone, I keep the old one.
Yep.
Because then I use this older phone for time lapses. I'll put it facing out the window or off of the balcony, and come back 2 or 3 hours later, something like that, and it's a nice sunset time lapse. Or people walking around a convention center or something. Like I use my older secondary phone to just simply put somewhere and have it capture time lapses, so my phone that actually takes calls isn't out of commission. This is walking around the convention. This is just getting around the San Diego.
This is nighttime walking around the convention center.
So this is maybe 20 minutes, 10 minutes that you can condense into like 30 seconds. Really easy, really fun, really quick. Because no one's going to want to sit and watch you for a half hour.
No. Here, let me grab another one of these. Like this one. This is kind of cool. This one right here.
It makes it a really fun way to present something that you normally couldn't get across. This is important because this is the length of the San Diego Convention Center for people. Now, if you're hearing this, you can't see it. If you're seeing it, I started on one end, and this is how long the dang thing is. This is going from one end to the other.
Well, here's another cool one. During the day, walking through the gas lamp district.
Yeah.
What? Not this is a setting on. Was this your iPhone or was this your camera?
This is well, that's kind of the one of the reasons why phones are really good, because phones will do things that cameras don't.
Yeah.
You can do time lapses on cameras if you really want to get in there and do it. But the phones are made for a completely different thing. It's just like swipe button, time lapse, go on a phone. Doing it on a camera is a whole lot more involved.
This next one I really love is a beautiful shot right here. This is the sun going down over San Diego Comic-Con. How appropriate.
Oh, that's really nice.
Isn't that was like a 7-hour time lapse. I plugged it into a large battery that I've got left for the convention and just let it go. Came back like 9 hours later.
I love that one. One's beautiful.
This is when I say I use my older phone. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I just keep the last phone that I bought. It's still working, and those time lapses of sunsets. That's what I do with them.
All right, Topher, we do have to wrap up. We've gone over an hour. Can you believe
Just to prove his point, this is a picture I got on the Disney lot with Stan Lee, and this was
a picture
done,
of Luke and Stan Lee.
Stan Lee on a Canon camera and not, regular. And you can see kind of the quality.
Oh,
with
yeah,
the
you can.
field,
Yeah.
and this is a photo that can. I hope, and I'm sure I do have the original photo somewhere. I need to keep better track of that, but this for my social media. But you see the difference in the image.
Oh yeah, the forehead and the detail all along the right above the eyes, or around the eyes and eyes around the mouth, and especially down around the cloud. Oh yeah, there's color values there and detail that you just can't pick up on a regular camera.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cheeseman, do you have any questions of Topher before we let him go? Topher, by the way, be thinking about this. What is your wrap-up advice for people taking photos and they want to capture what's going on right now? But before we say that, Cheeseman, what is any question you might have?
Why don't you ask that, since that's in context?
Topher, that's the question. What for people going this year to San Diego Comic-Con, what's your advice for capturing the moments this year at San Diego Comic-Con?
Just be aware that because of the nature of this being a pilgrimage plus the fact that it evolves, that there's a very good chance that you will be looking at this photo in 20 years. And I don't get like all nervous about it, but just understand that like it's not you go to the beach, you go to eat with your friends, you go to Knott's, you go to even Disneyland, and you're just flippantly taking photos, taking photos, and you'll go back there. You won't go back to this year at San Diego Comic-Con, because it will be a completely different animal, completely in a decade, and in another decade it will be something different. So if you're taking the photos this year, take the photos, take the photo with your friends, take the photos, with just a couple of tips we talked about. Buy a small entry-level camera with a kit camera, take the photos. I really can't suggest that one enough. Get a small camera, get an entry-level one, take it. But you know what I do? I take the picture with my camera, and then I immediately take it with my phone right away, because then I can share that phone photo 10 minutes from now, because it's that difference of the phone camera. They're not in competition. The phone one, I take the same photo twice, camera and phone. The phone one is the one that gets shot off to social media that night. The camera is the one that I won't get to editing for 2 months, but in 10 years it will still look good. So it's not a competition, but do get it, and take pictures of your friends, because there's a couple of photos of people that the last time I met them, the last photo I took with them before they died was at San Diego Comic-Con. So, and like Eric Cajuit, which was Jedi Elvis, I would just see him everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. I would just see him all around, and I only have like 4 photos with him, because we were on a real friendly basis. So it was not like, so it wasn't thinking, I don't think your friends are going to die, but these moments aren't going to be, they're going to be special in a decade. So take the photos, take a lot of them, enjoy them, cover everything that you can. And don't feel bad about if you end up with like 400 photos after Comic-Con. You can always delete 200.
I still remember, like, just to say that, and although I wouldn't consider him a friend, he was somebody I was really looking up to, and that's Richard Hatch from the original Battlestar Galactica. He was also in the reboot Battlestar Galactica, and Luke is the one who was with me when I went up to get his autograph and take a photo with him. I shook his hand. He died that year. He passed away, and I didn't even know he was ill. And then I was able to take that photo, write up a tribute to him, and they published it in the Comic-Con, the souvenir guide the next year. And that's a special moment to me. Not just that I got published in the souvenir guide. I've been published in many magazines, but with Richard Hatch, somebody who so passionately believed in the Battlestar Galactica brand, and it was just so neat. Like don't miss those opportunities. Like you were saying, don't miss the opportunities to really grab those photos that you're not going to get another chance. All right, Cheeseman, do you have? Oh, I guess that's time for us to wrap up. Cheeseman, any other questions before we wrap up?
Just real quickly, I would say, what was your favorite photo or video you've captured at a Comic-Con, Topher?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I think the favorite is always kind of a weird one with me because it's like it's like, what do you feel like eating today? You know, like you feel or more movie. Do you want to laugh or do you want to cry? But to answer the question, one of the probably one of the I can't actually say my favorites, but the second favorite is
oh wait, the favorite one cannot be shared.
Is would be basically in meeting the people and getting photos with people that I really looked up to and I had time with. Not just like shake your hand and go, but you were able to really spend a little bit of time with them, right? And if I had to nail down one, it would be the photo my wife took of Harryhausen, which shows off her. She is. I'm into photography. I married into the Canon. She is the best candid photographer you'll ever met. She did the ability for her to get an angle is just she's just so good at candids. So there Harryhausen goes up to like a Gentle Giant or one of those statue ones. He goes up there because they have, I don't know if you remember, it was the one that had those like 12, 15 foot giant statues on the four corners of it. But he's giant. One of them was his Medusa.
Wait, stop for a second.
Yes.
He's talking about Harryhausen, who was the stop motion genius who did like so many of the classics during like the 60s and 70s, and perhaps his magnum opus was Clash of the Titans. And the Medusa figuring, which you're describing, is what he's most known for because it was magnificent. All right, keep going.
There are 3 evolutions of special effects. The first one was George Millet, second one with Harryhausen, the third one was George Lucas. So he is number 2 on the guy that revolutionized how a lot of the effects actually work. So so you go up and it's got his iconic Medusa from the Greek myths, 15 foot tall. And so he goes and he stands on the side of it, right? He's standing here. He stands right next to it. My wife, just because she's just so good at this, all these like New York Times photographers, all the proper photographers, I'm sorry, I can't talk. Proper photographers are taking this straight shot. My wife does a 45-degree angle to the side and gets a profile of him against the Medusa, and the Medusa is so large, it's so big that he is inside of the Medusa's profile. So it's Medusa, Harryhausen, and that shot is just, it's such a good shot. It shows off, and she was the only one that took the shot. Everyone else was doing this, and she, no, I'm gonna go that way, and that was really cool because at that same time, I got to spend just a little bit of time and I got to see this amazing moment where he was so wonderfully humble and so amazing with the guys that worked there. Because I was talking to his wife at the time when he was doing that. So that the photo of my wife took of the Medusa and Harryhausen.
By the way, this is the Medusa. I was reading. Let me get it real quick. The famous Medusa figurine from Harryhausen, one of the classic of all time. I love it. All right. Topher, we do have to wrap up here. We have to wrap up. Cheeseman, is that the question that's the question that you asked. But Topher, I can't wait to hook up with you down there in San Diego Comic-Con.
That's going to be great.
The panel's going to be great. And tell us one more time, your wonderful, lovely wife, Janelle, if people want to come visit her at the booth, it's somewhere. It's
710, 715. It will be listed as Geekdom Wear. It will be the Chainmail Dragon.
Chainmail Dragon. All right, Cheeseman, anything else before we close?
Yeah, that's all. We'll see.
All right, Topher, where can people follow? Is it Geekdom Wear online?
Geekdom Wear is where we're all right now. If you follow Geekdom Wear, when we change the name over, it will just simply change over to the Chainmail Dragon. So it's Geekdom Wear wherever you want to find us.
Cool. And Stay
And
on that.
geekdomware.com is a website we're doing
Cool.
refurbishing on, but geekdomware.com if you want to, you bookmark the website.
Okay, stay on Topher after we stop. I'm just gonna we're gonna wrap up the video here. Everybody come see us on Sunday at 4:00. And what's the name of the panel again, Topher? Because it changed.
Success and creativity, managing your resources.
If you are interested in being a creative force or having a creative career, this is how you manage your resource. All right, Topher, thank you so much. Cheeseman, Topher, Jim, we are saying
Thank
goodbye.
you for having me. I wanted to get some of this technical stuff out and just a bit of tips, because it's so often people are like, hand me the phone, and it's like, this is on live. You understand that, right?
I got to tell you real quick before when Topher first pitched this, is like, I don't know what he's pitching us, but now I fully get it. This is great. Take those pictures, gather those moments. Don't let it go by. Comic-Con is a special thing, especially for those of us who are there. So, all right, everybody, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching The Con Guy, the official program of theconguy.com. Find us on the Weeby Geeks Collective or anywhere you listen to podcasts.